Good evening, good evening, good evening. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Another day's journey. So glad about it and so grateful for your joining me again on Saturday evening for Real Talk with Pastor Waller. I'm so grateful that you all trust me with this time as we kind of catch up with what's going on in the community. Obviously, last week, one of our teenagers has blessed our hearts, Anaya. JP, Ethan, all of them. And we're also excited that we have leaders in our community to talk about what's really going on in the community as it impacts us as a faith community, as people of God, and as people who are concerned about justice and well-being for everyone. So that's what we're doing tonight. I am grateful and looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. Don't forget, it's communion. And there are a couple of things we need to talk about. We're continuing to talk about Black Up Wednesdays, and we'll talk more about that. But tonight, I am grateful to have someone who I would call friend. I want to acknowledge that. Someone that we in the state of Pennsylvania have chosen to lead us, and someone we want to talk with today because we are concerned about the direction of our country, the direction of our state, and that is our governor, Governor Josh Shapiro. And so I could run down a laundry list of his accomplishments, but we're here to talk with him. For those of you that are watching this, that are journalists, you know, that's not what I am. What this is a conversation to help us better understand what's going on in the world today. Here's the reason I did it. I listened to you. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out. You got a whole state to run, but you've taken time out to spend about a half hour with me, and I appreciate that.
I'm thrilled to do it. I consider you a friend. I consider Enon and this community you serve to be so critically important, and I made so many wonderful friendships here and have learned a lot from folks here, so I'm anxious to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. So what prompted this for me is we have a new president. We have a new political reality. You as the governor, and we also heard our mayor in some way say something to the effect that you're willing to work with the administration, as you should be because you're the governor and that's the president. But for us, that's a scary proposition. How should we understand what that means for you to work with what, these are not your words, it's my words, it's personification of evil, if you ask me, but you have to work with it. How can we trust you after making that statement, and what does that mean for you to work with the administration?
It's a really fair question, and I know it's one on people's minds. I hear it a lot wherever I go. Working with the duly elected president of the United States doesn't mean vacating your values. And I want to be really clear about that. Pennsylvanians know me. They know what I stand for. They know what my values are. I shared them when I asked for their vote, and I've shared them every single day since then, both with my words and my actions, my deeds, the things that I've gotten done for folks or the things that I'm working hard to do for them. Working with the President of the United States, working with our federal partners is a necessity to make sure we can deliver services to folks, that we can make sure that people have what they need. But standing up to the federal government when I think they're encroaching on our values, when I think they're trying to take away something from us, is something I've done in the past, I'm doing now, and I'll continue to do in the future. Look, I won't let anybody mess with Pennsylvania. I won't let anybody try and take away our rights. I was elected by the people of Pennsylvania to protect their rights and interests, and I'm going to continue to do that work. We have to find ways to find common ground and work together, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm sure during our conversation we'll get into more specifics about that, but that's the approach that I take. I get that folks are scared right now. I get that folks are worried. I get that some people hear, wait, the gov's working with the president, that means he's going to agree with the president and take something away from me that I value. You don't have to worry about that. I'm always going to stand with the people of Pennsylvania and stand firm in my values.
Thank you for that. You do realize that that's something we've not seen from another human being. It's, for instance, when we watch people get in his atmosphere, the next thing there's either capitulation um, or corroboration, and we're very much concerned. So we want to hold you to being who we elected.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
May I
Yeah,
offer kind of a real life example of this?
absolutely.
Because I want folks to understand this. What it means to say, I'll work with them.
Okay.
When the president took over, he froze a whole bunch of federal funding. And the impact to Pennsylvania was to put in question about $5 billion worth of funds that had been legally appropriated to us, and to literally freeze, that is, stop money from coming to Pennsylvania in the amount of about $2 billion. So when I say I'm willing to work with them but stand firm in our values, let me explain what I mean. We reached out to the White House. We reached out to our federal partners and said, hey, you froze money that is legally obligated to Pennsylvania. Things that help our veterans, our farmers, our seniors, our health care for people in the community with disabilities, things like that. And they were unwilling to budge on what I believe to be an illegal hold of money that is duly appropriated to Pennsylvania. You know what I did, Pastor? I sued them. See, I'm not going to stand by and let them harm Pennsylvania. So sure, I'm willing to work with them. I'm willing to talk to them. I'm willing to engage. But if they're unwilling to help Pennsylvania, or they're doing something to hurt Pennsylvania, I'm going to stand up for our folks. I sued them, and I expect that we'll be getting our money back soon.
Wow. Thank you for that, and thank you for giving a real-life example. But to that extent, you sued them for Pennsylvania. And one of the things that's being talked about right now, everybody's throwing around the DEI moniker and so forth. I'm an African-American Black man here in the state of Pennsylvania. We, in the African-American community, have issues with DEI as well for this reason. DEI at times feels like a train we built that we benefit least from now, because everybody's gotten back on. Now, my question to you is, you fought for Pennsylvania, and money could come back. When it's time for it to make its way down to us, I need to know that you demonstrate an understanding of the unique struggle of Black community, not just the larger minority, but Black people in Pennsylvania are struggling and seem to not be being considered in this conversation. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, and I think, if I may respectfully rephrase your question, because I think you're asking two different things. One is kind of DEI and the impact on the conversation, and the second is, how do I show that my values understand the struggles of African Americans and Black Pennsylvanians, and how have I delivered on that?
That's right.
If I may, let me try and address both. I think you started, I may be paraphrasing here, but you started by saying, I'm an African American male who's, where DEI has not always helped us or has harmed us in some ways. I'm paraphrasing.
And what I mean by that is, much of the freedom train comes from our fight for freedom from slavery. We have a unique relationship in this country as being slaves in this country. And we did a lot for this country through the consciousness of the civil rights movement. And we have invited the larger community to come on and get on the train. And what it feels like as an African American, now that all minorities are jumped on the train, it seems that our piece of the pie is the smallest piece. That's what it feels like.
And I'm not being argumentative on that. I think that what you're sharing is something I hear quite a bit. And this sort of moniker of DEI is used sometimes to maybe not lift certain folks up that deserve to be lifted up. I think I'm hearing that a little bit from you. And I will tell you, as a proud American Jew, sometimes the DEI moniker is used to hold folks back or as an excuse to attack folks. So I hear that in a lot of different ways. I think the answer should not be what the President of the United States is doing, but rather what we're doing in Pennsylvania. Let me explain. The President uses the moniker of DEI as an excuse for either his failings or the failings of his administration. That plane didn't crash over Washington, D.C. because of DEI.
That's right.
He uses DEI to try and pit one group against the other. He believes in stoking division because he thinks that division and chaos and the separation is somehow going to make him more powerful. And by the way, he's used that to win elections. And so this is something we've seen him do over time. That's extremely dangerous. I've taken a totally different approach in Pennsylvania. You know, I go to work, Pastor, I sit in an office that was built over 100 years ago in the state capitol with portraits of those who came before me, including William Penn, who founded this Commonwealth in the 1600s. Now, I'm not sure Penn ever imagined we'd have a Jewish governor talking to a black pastor about these issues.
Exactly.
But he'd probably be proud. And you know why? Because he built this Commonwealth as a place that would be warm and welcoming for all, no matter how you prayed.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so I think a lot about that when I do my work. And so we tried to focus less on labels and instead more on creating opportunity for all, no matter what you look like, where you come from, who you love, who you pray to. And we're very serious about that. Now, let me get to the second part of your question, to show my work, if you will. We have an unconstitutional education system in Pennsylvania. 2 years ago, a court said that. I won't get into all the legalese, but basically it was for two reasons. One, we didn't fund our schools enough. And two, we didn't send those dollars out to the school districts that need it most. And if you look at the second part of that, the school districts that need it most, primarily schools with black children, Latino children, children who have historically not been given the same opportunity. In just my first 2 years as governor, show my work, show my values, show that that sort of responsibility that I've been given from Penn and those who came before me. We changed our funding formula, and we've driven out an historic amount of funding to Philadelphia schools, to Allentown schools, to school districts with large minority populations, Norristown School District. And we're investing more in public education than at any time in our Commonwealth's history. So we're satisfying that. I'll give you another example. You and I have talked about this. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is the largest purchaser of goods and services in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And yet for too long, black-owned businesses, particularly small, diverse businesses, were never even given the shot to compete. And we set out to change that. I put Austin Davis, my lieutenant governor, in charge of a new commission with Reggie McNeil, our Secretary of Department of General Services. And I said, I don't want to hear about quotas that we're never going to meet. I don't want to hear about percentages that we're never going to actually attain. I want a new system where we are reaching out to black-owned businesses, to small, diverse businesses, and inviting them to compete for this work, inviting them into sit at the table of progress here. And you know what's happened, lo and behold, as a result of us focusing on this, trying to make sure everybody's voice gets heard? Last year, we set a record investing $1.2 billion in state contracts for small business. And of that, $700 million went to small, diverse businesses. That's a record on both fronts. And so just two examples of how we are recognizing that you have to maybe not focus on the labels and the division and all the nonsense the president focuses on, but concrete, tangible acts that lift people up, whether in our schools or in our businesses.
Thank you for that. Two places that you've lifted up, I have concern. I'm very involved in the school district, and so I do know that there are historic numbers. I think you would admit that we still have a long way to go in addressing this free, this student-weighted fair funding formula.
Respectfully, may I just jump in? We have a ways to go on the dollars.
Yes.
But we fixed the formula.
Gotcha.
So the formula piece is done. But we have to continue to invest. That's why my budget now calls for an historic amount. Again, we're going to continue to do that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, thank you for that. And when you use the word diverse and the $700 million, diverse, our concern is that if we can dial down, and we don't have to do it here today, but I know there's someone listening to me that would say, thank you for that. But when we dial down that diverse, that's when the numbers for specifically black people is not all 700 million.
It is not.
That's right.
However, it is more than ever before.
Okay.
And we can break that down for
Yep.
you and others at home who
That
are
would be good.
interested.
Yep.
I think what you have seen from my administration is an unprecedented investment in small businesses,
Absolutely.
unprecedented in small diverse, and unprecedented in Black-owned businesses. All are up. And part of that was we changed our mindset. You know,
Yep.
the past governors would say, we're going to do X percent to this type of business. And actually, two things happened. One, we never actually attained those percentages. And two, you actually make folks feel like it's not a fair competition. By creating this opportunity for actual fair competition, and by doing the outreach we've done to small, diverse, and Black-owned businesses and saying, hey, you've never bid on this, but you provide the widgets, you provide the services that we need, please bid. By fixing our payment system, so now you get prompt pay, you actually get paid within 10 days of doing the work. We had never done that before. We're seeing not just a record amount of contracts being awarded, but more and more people competing for this work. And so we're getting the best products, the best prices, the best services for the people of Pennsylvania. And we're doing it by inviting more people in to compete and giving out more awards to folks who are well-deserved and diverse at the same time. We think this system is working, and this approach is really a novel one and an important one.
Good. Thank you for that. So as we talk about business and we talk about Pennsylvania, you're our governor. When we talk about Philadelphia, say this is a city of eds, meds, and beds. You know, the economy sort of leans into the fact that we've got a lot of colleges and universities, a lot of teaching hospitals, and tourism. So that's where we're leaning into opportunity.
Yeah.
What's the Pennsylvania opportunity? Where are we going? Is it energy? Is it attracting larger Amazon stuff? What if a child is being raised in Pennsylvania? What can he look forward to, and where should we be leaning in?
Yeah. You just highlighted what I think is the biggest challenge we face in Pennsylvania, and that is giving that child an opportunity to participate in our workforce.
That's right.
Not necessarily tomorrow, but over the next 10 years.
Absolutely. Where's this thing going?
We've tried to come at this in a few different ways. Let me highlight just two.
All right.
But you should push me for others if you'd
Absolutely.
like. First, we've never had an economic development strategy in Pennsylvania. We'd throw a bunch of money out there, and sometimes it would hit, sometimes it would miss, but we didn't have a clear focus. We now have a focus on 5 distinct areas of the economy that we are investing in. And you mentioned a few of them.
Yeah.
Life sciences, right? Eds and beds, manufacturing, energy. Those are a few that you mentioned that are really important. In addition to that, we're putting money into the workforce development so that young people have a pathway into those areas. We are investing a record amount, more money than ever before, more focus than ever before, on what you and I would have called growing up VOTEC. They now have a fancy word for it. It's called CTE, right?
Okay.
I want a 10th grader to learn how to be a welder. I want that 10th grader to learn computer programming so they can go out in that field. I want that 10th grader to learn the skills they need to go work at a life sciences company in Philadelphia. I want that 10th grader to learn how to be a farmhand, because agriculture is one of those 5 pillars in a key area. Not so much talked about in the Philly area, but a huge piece of the Pennsylvania economy. In addition to that, we respect all pathways to opportunity. We do not believe you have to go to college to be successful in Pennsylvania. 60% of Pennsylvania adults do not have a college degree. Yet I'll be honest with you, too long, people in my party and others define success around going to college. You want to go to college? Great. We're working to make that more affordable. But if you want to go to the military, you want to go in the trades, you want to go directly to work, we have to treat that with the same level of respect as well. And part of showing that respect is not just with my words, but with my actions. So we're not only investing more in apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships than ever before to train students, high school students, and just out of high school for that work, but what we're also doing is expanding the number of apprenticeships to tie them directly to workforce opportunities in Pennsylvania. At the end of this decade, 1 out of every 3 Pennsylvanians is going to be over the age of 65. There's a whole lot of folks still working over the age of 65, but they're on their way out of the workforce, not into the workforce.
That's right.
As time goes on. We need to address that by training folks with the skills they need today to be able to live lives of purpose, make a good living, and to stay here in the Commonwealth. So we're coming at this by A, identifying those key sectors of our economy where we can grow, B, giving people the tools that they need to be able to succeed there, make money, care for their families there, and then C, investing in those sectors of the economy in our high-rises downtown, in our single-story buildings on main streets across rural Pennsylvania, in our suburban office parks. We're making sure that those investments flow everywhere, not just into some communities. I'm very passionate about this.
Got you.
I was asked, not too long ago in a panel with other governors, they were like, what is the thing that keeps you up at night? Obviously, we all stay up at night thinking about, God forbid, emergencies like what we saw over this weekend with the shooting at the hospital in York or the fire in Abington a few days before that. But beyond emergencies, workforce to me is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
But workforce to me presents an opportunity to lift people up and give them an opportunity to succeed.
Thank you for that. And one of the things that you mentioned about college, that's such a nuanced conversation. For instance, I have a burden for our community. That's why I ask you to be here.
Yeah.
When America has a cold, it's a pneumonia in the Black community. So we've got to think about, how does this messaging sound? So I agree with you. Not everybody's going to college, but when that message reverberates too loudly in our community, it disengages some people in our community that need to go to college and need access. And so in African-American community, colleges like community colleges become so strategically important.
Sure.
You and I, while we admit that not everybody has to go to college, you with your children and me with my children, we're probably pushing them to see education and to see that as a pathway. And so I want to make sure that I push other children like I push my children. But I know that for that to happen, organizations like community colleges are very important.
Yeah.
How does community college fit in this overall strategy for you?
Pastor, I hear you. I think that, and I don't think you and I are far off from agreeing with one another. I just think if you go to college, or you go in the trades, or you go in the military, or you go right to work, we just have to treat all pathways to success with the same level of respect.
That's right.
In addition to those investments I talked about in things like VOTEC, apprenticeships, and other things to get people into work, I called for a dramatic reforming of our college system in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We basically have 3 different kinds of colleges that we fund. One is community colleges.
Yep.
2 are our state system of higher education schools. Think Cheney University. Think Westchester University.
Yep.
And then we have our state-relateds. Think Temple, Pitt, Penn State, Lincoln. Okay? And all of them have been kind of competing with one another for a limited dollar. And so what I set out to do, and I've done this successfully, I got this through a bipartisan legislature, is 1, get all 3 kinds of schools working together. We now have a governing council that works with all types of schools, so they're not competing with one another. 2, make it easier for students to jump in between those schools at affordable pricing, so higher ed is more accessible.
Yep.
3, have more dollars available to help subsidize school for students, so giving dollars directly to students to go to college, whichever one they choose in those 3 buckets.
Yeah.
And then finally, making sure that we the taxpayers, are paying for outcomes that are helpful to us as a Commonwealth. Let me explain. We would say to Temple University, man, we really want you to graduate students and have them stay in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We never incentivized that. Now we do. As a result of the work I've done, we will now pay Temple University when a student decides to stay in Pennsylvania. That's a performance-based funding. We will pay a Temple University, and this is not unique to Temple, it's all, but I'm using Temple as an example.
Yeah.
We'll pay Temple University for the number of first-generation college students that they admit. We'll pay Temple University when they graduate people in fields that we need, i.e. nursing, as just one example. So we're kind of coming at this all different ways, elevating all the different schools and having them work together as opposed to competing with one another. So community colleges benefit big time from that.
Okay.
By the way, I'm someone who's invested in community colleges, even back as a county commissioner in Montgomery County.
Got you.
I believe in them. Getting students more dollars in their pockets to bring down the cost of school and incentivizing these schools to actually do the things that are going to help all of us as Pennsylvanians. Your life is better if Temple graduates a first-generation college student and they go into nursing and they stay here in Pennsylvania to care for you, your family, your congregants. And you as a taxpayer are investing in that. I think that that is a way to try and make college attainable, affordable, and outcome-based in a way that helps lift all of us up. And that is not aspirational. That's literally what we've passed in Pennsylvania and what we're doing.
Excellent. Well, man, thank you for that. The point of your being here, I wanted to have a conversation with you. I fully acknowledge, for those of you that are watching, I fully acknowledge that I'm talking with a friend, also with the governor. I fully acknowledge that there are a number of ways this conversation can go. What I want you to do is think about what you've heard, think about what you've seen, and stay involved, stay engaged in the political process. My question to you is, we've had this conversation. Is there anything that you are working on, anything that you are doing now that we need to hear from you to know, particularly in how we can trust that you're going to remain the person that we elected?
Yeah.
We are concerned. What came up for me in this, we've not seen, and these are my words, we've not seen someone go into this president's atmosphere and stay true.
Yeah.
And so we're watching you. I believe personally you can, but what should I look for to know that you're doing it?
That's a fair question. Look to make sure that I am remaining true to what I learned in my very first race for office when I ran for state representative and knocked on 18,000 doors in my community. No one thought I could win that race. Knocked on 18,000 doors. And what I learned in that race and what I've carried with me ever since is the ability to listen, and listen not just with my mind, but with my heart as well. Let me explain with some granularity. I still travel all around Pennsylvania. I show up in different communities. I've been to your church many times. And folks are very willing to come over to me and tell me what they think. They don't always treat every politician that way. I think for some, they feel like, oh, I can't approach that person. I can't talk to them. I feel blessed that people feel as though I'm approachable and that they can tell me stuff. What I've never forgotten is how to listen and how to turn people's pain into my purpose. Folks will come over to me and tell me their pain about being able to stay in their homes when they're seniors. You know what? I made that my purpose, and we passed the largest tax cut for seniors in 20 years, so seniors could stay in their homes. Thousands more Philadelphians specifically are getting a tax break now as a result of conversations I had with seniors saying, hey, help me stay in my home. Speaking of homes, I heard loud and clear from people all across Philadelphia, we need a housing action plan. And it's got to be led by the state in concert with the good work Mayor Parker and others are doing, but we need to invest more in that space. I heard that loud and clear. I've proposed historic investments in that space. I heard from families over and over again about the cost of childcare. We tripled our childcare tax credit, helping over 200,000 Pennsylvania families afford childcare. Those are three of dozens of examples.
Gotcha.
But it elucidates the broader point. I learned in my first race to listen, and I continue to listen. I continue to be a humble public servant. And so as I go forward on my journey in public service, sure, you should look to my work and make sure I'm achieving the things that I set out to achieve, or at least I'm fighting to try and get it done. But continue to watch and make sure I'm listening and hold me accountable to that.
Absolutely.
I work very, very hard to be a humble public servant, to listen, to learn from people, and to deliver for them. And I'm going to continue to do that work on a personal note, I continue to be grounded by my faith and by my family. I've been very open about how my faith calls me to serve. I've been very open about, I think even here in church, quoting the Talmud, which says no one is required to complete the task, but neither are we free to refrain from it. Each of us has a responsibility.
That's right.
To get off the sidelines, get in the game, do our part. That is why I'm in public service. That is how I do this public service. And so I understand folks, when they start to see on different stages, get worried you're going to forget where you came from. I'm never going to forget where I came from. I'm never going to stop listening, and I'm never going to stop serving with this heart that's grounded in faith and family.
Governor Josh Shapiro, thank you, man, for trusting me with this moment. And I hope that you would consider in a year from now that we might have this conversation again, just to check in to see what's going on. I appreciate all of you who have taken this time to watch us and to consider what you've heard. Listen, but get involved. Get involved in our state. We've got a great state. I have been, my whole pastoral ministry is in the state of Pennsylvania, from the small town of Donora, Pennsylvania, in the Monongahela Valley, to the last 30 years here in Philadelphia, trying to serve this present age. So I'm grateful for your being here, grateful for your listening in. Please comment, let me know what you think. Let me know how I can also represent you to help the administration know what's going on in our community. We're concerned, and we continue to pray for you. And that's what we're getting ready to do now as we get ready to close out. Thank you very much. We're praying for your wife and children.
Thank you.
Praying for your work. Come on, let's go to God in prayer. God, I bless you and thank you. I thank you for this conversation with Governor Josh Shapiro. I thank you for using him. Lord, I pray that you would protect him. I pray that you would guide his steps. I pray, Lord, that you would convict him if he gets too close to the line. And I pray, oh God, that you would continue to allow us to have this conversation, that in our lives you would get glory and it would be for our good. We pray for this state. We pray for this country. We pray, God, that your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, as we go throughout the rest of our day, would that you go with us, stand by us until we meet again. It is through Christ I pray, and for his sake, let us all say, amen. Listen, love y'all much. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer.